pretty good. Starting a show today on a Thursday. It's rainy outside. It's me, Hugh. It's almost October. Starting to feel a little bit kind of warm, right, Jen Frankel?
This is my favorite weather of the year. I hate to say it, but spring and fall and winter. I can really live without summer. But
Really?
yeah,
You know
I'm
what? You're
not a
not
big
the
summer
only one.
person.
I mean, I know some other people like that too. You know
Do
what
they
I'm
all
saying?
live above the Arctic Circle is the question.
No, they don't.
Okay, it's good.
I live in
'Cause
Toronto, where the summers get hot.
summers get very hot.
Right.
Not as bad as Montreal, where you can literally fry eggs on the pavement.
No, come on.
I have
The
seen it
summers
done.
aren't any hotter in Montreal.
Oh, they are too.
I'll bet you any money.
Okay, now I gotta get the Google going before I take that bet. Is
Okay.
all.
Anyways,
Yeah.
let's get busy. There's Corey, our first guest, Corey Marques, and is that the proper pronunciation?
Yeah, Corey Marques, you got it, Hugh.
Excellent.
Are you a Chaos Marks or an X?
MARQUES, actually. It's a
Yeah.
little
That's
funky.
cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I'm super happy and grateful to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's a blessing to be in your solar presence.
Thank you, Corey. And you know, I'm sorry. I know we got a little bit of a late start, and we haven't really had a chance to get into it. But you came in
okay, I
a couple
still
weeks
love you.
ago. Thanks. But I mean, you came in a couple weeks ago, and we had a really, I don't know, we were just having a really good time, and
Synergetic moment we had.
yeah. And so
Where was I? Was I
you
was out of
weren't
country.
here.
Never mind.
You were in Scotland.
Yeah, it's all right. It was good.
But you've written a book, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
It's called The Water Bear, and it's it's actually fitting that it's raining outside because the weather is aligning with the mood that's in the air.
And that's a novel, right?
It is written as a novel, as a play, as a documentary, all in one. So it's interesting. Yeah, you can read it kind of like a play, but it's also a movie. So he's actually a reporter, and he's interviewing everybody who has a professional opinion of what water is. So he's interviewing a quantum physicist. He interviews a sea captain. And then he also interviews a medicine man at the end, which is the greatest journey.
Okay, how big is it as a book? Like, how would somebody get a hold of it?
Yeah,
Is it a book or is
it's
it a
on
video
Amazon,
or a-
Indigo. It's mainly on Amazon. You can get it. Yeah.
So now, you know what inspired this book? Because I know it's not really you didn't write it for the money. You didn't write it for the sake of writing a book, right? Like there was a real inspiration, a message, or something that you were trying to get out with this book, right? So
Yeah,
like, what's the
yeah.
story of how you got into? All
Yeah, no,
that?
I guess I wrote it as the channel to understand what water really is. It's always been fascinating to me. The most abundant thing on the planet. It's the most abundant thing in our body, and even the mind is actually made more of water than anything else. So it's really, really interesting. The mind is like a crystal ball. If you hold an image in your mind, you can hold that object in your hand. And it's just a fascinating subject. It's the one thing that's built to last, from solid, liquid, gas, right? It's the constant, ongoing shapeshifter elixir, right?
Right.
You can blow it up, you can destroy it, you can try to, punch it. You can do whatever you want to water, but its destiny is to fly back to the crown of the earth, where it's blessed by the suns and the cosmos, and then rains back down for another stellar journey. There's no stopping it. What's really cool about that is that water's liquid journey, I think, mirrors our soul cycle as well, right? Lots of people, say this reincarnation or, and stuff like that. Well, it's very interesting how if we watch water, we can see it fly back to the crown of the earth, where it achieves its perfect shape again as a snowflake, amongst the stars before going back to its next journey. So there's a lot of meaning and magic in that I think humanity still hasn't quite covered.
Okay, so how does something like the ice storm and fit into the karmic purpose of water?
Well, yeah, no, that's the beautiful thing, is that water is always on this journey, right? Everyone gets moody, right? Who doesn't get moody, right? And water, I mean, you'd get pretty moody too if you were, shooting down the pipes in the most darkest, sharpest points of the planet, right?
Or in a water park, for example, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit more fun. That's in the more in the sun.
Probably
out
not for
in
the
the
water,
opening,
though.
right?
I mean, wouldn't be surprised if the water kind of hates that.
Yeah, no, well, exactly. Water, it's constantly going through that emotional journey, right? From, where it's, in love and gratitude at the highest point of the earth amongst the stars to, the deepest, less satisfactory emotions when it's in the pipes, for example.
So was there a moment when you became interested in water?
Yeah, actually, in high school, I wrote a poem. Actually, this book started out as a poem and then morphed into this interdimensional play documentary novel that it is now. And it started off just called "The Power of Water." "The Power of Water" is was the poem that I wrote in my last year of high school that morphed into the story it is now.
So it's interesting. Water is obviously a part of all of our lives. I mean, it's the only thing we need to consume. We can survive on just water for, I think, there's the rule of threes, right? We can survive 3 minutes without air,
Yeah.
3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. And if you're taking water in, you can still even
Yeah.
survive longer than that. But the human body can actually survive just on water.
That's
for an
right.
extended
Yeah.
period
Well,
of
water is
time.
the most receptive thing in the world, and it's also the most life-giving as well. So I mean, water. It's the most miraculous thing that we can comprehend. It's the only thing that actually expands, like when
When
it's
it
frozen.
freezes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All the other ones contract. So it's very very special.
Plus, it freezes on the top, not on the bottom like the other liquids, right?
Yeah. Oh, there's
Which
so many
allows
mysteries.
us
Yeah.
to have lakes and oceans with life underneath
Yeah.
in the
Right.
winter, right?
Mist stories. They're
Yeah.
mist stories. Mist stories waiting to be unfold.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, Corey, so the thing about, like, I'm a little concerned about water, right? I
yeah.
mean, we got a lot of people are concerned about it, whether we're putting fluoride in it or whether we're
Whether we treat it as
I'm-
if it's a human right to be able to get water, or whether we sell it off to each other.
or how we or what's happening with radiation in the Pacific now. I know because we were talking before, and you were saying, water renews itself through the water cycle, right?
Yeah.
And but what about these? These are new threats.
Yeah,
some of these
absolutely.
things, right?
And that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book is because to teach people how to do water healing rituals at home. I think that's the next step of our human evolution is increasing the vibration all around us because we've done a lot of bad things to the vibration, to the environment around us. And now it's, we're at this stage of life, this challenging stage where, okay, we actually have to project healthier vibrations to the planet more now than ever, which is why Dr. Emoto's experiments are so relevant. I think the one label that he gave to love and gratitude that, was love and gratitude, and it created the most crystals than anything else, was love and
Can
gratitude.
you tell us more about what his experiments are? I'm actually not familiar with it. I think
Of course,
is.
yep.
Are you familiar with these experiments?
Yes, I am.
So what Dr. Emoto did is...
That would have been so much more appropriate if you're actually drinking water at that
Oh,
point.
there's water in this. This
Water's
is made
everywhere.
with
Well-
it's actually instant water.
Okay, what do you add to instant water?
Hot coffee.
So Dr. Moto.
So Dr. Emoto did all these experiments where he actually, gave the water all different sounds, different labels, different musics, and then he flash froze the water right after you would put a label on it, and then you could see the energetic effect throughout the water. Right, water being the most receptive thing in the universe. When we give it to something and then take a picture of it afterwards, we can see the cause and effect of how water reacts
Oh,
to
that's
whatever
neat.
energy we give it. So love and gratitude created the most beautiful crystals than any other intention given to that water. For example, if it was something negative, like you fool, there wouldn't be any crystals at all. There wouldn't be
Yeah.
any snowflakes. There would just be blotches, blobs everywhere. So the most uplifting vibrations is what actually created the most structural integrity inside these snowflakes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
hope we continue to believe that we can drink water and don't start to think that we shouldn't be consuming it because it's got a life of its own.
Well, no, and that's why it's so important to, even just speak to your water before you drink it. Say love and gratitude. Give it a positive energy first, and then take it into your temple. Like what are we offering our temples every day? That's one of the biggest questions that we could ask.
And water will survive us anyway. The water that we drink is not consumed.
Oh,
it
yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere. In fact, we know where it goes.
Yeah. Oh, water is it's the essence of all life, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, it's always going to last a lot longer than any of us do because it is what we are.
Now, you know, I mentioned to you that we actually had Dr. Emoto in here. And,
Yeah.
it's too bad he just died like last year or something
Oh,
like that.
I know. He's definitely
and-
one of my idols. And after I heard that, I was just like, just had this voice, synchro destiny, just being here, and it's
No,
amazing.
I asked him a question. I said, what do you think? This is interesting. I'm interested in what you think about this or where we go from this idea. That I asked him, like, what about all the fluoride and stuff that they're putting in the water and stuff like that? I asked him. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said, what he said to me was interesting. He said, in this country, Canada, that we are so blessed to have so much water and that we can just go to the tap and turn it on and have water that we can drink, because there are so many places in the world where water is scarce and so precious that luxury that we take for granted is
Yeah.
something to actually be grateful for. That was his answer
That's
about
great.
fluoride,
Yeah.
right?
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's nothing I hate more than people who complain about the brand of bottled water they get. Like
Yeah.
that's just it's such a such a
And
such a privilege to be able to
Yeah. I mean,
buy your water. I mean, crazy.
And I mean, it is good to talk about stuff like this to build an awareness so that we can act on doing something that's better. But I mean, majority people just complain to complain, and it's it's just it lowers your vibration. Complaints, if you don't really have an attitude, where I'm saying this because I want to get something done, if you're just complaining about it, it's just lowering the vibration of the room. It's lowering the vibration in you. Like, at least have an attitude that you're going to do something constructive about it, or else complaints they're useless.
And during this whole American election cycle, I mean, we've had so much talk, like just absolutely hateful talk on race, on gender, on any differences between people that can be amplified and
Yeah.
turned into sticking points
Yeah.
between
Well,
people.
one of the-
There was a really great interview I heard on American radio about, and they were talking to a guy who's a journalist in Baton Rouge and asking him what he does, because he's got family members that are Trump supporters, or that their racism is coming out, and he said that you've got to keep engaging. He said one of the positive things you can do is to continue to engage with people but engage them in a way that's healing and helpful.
Yeah, that builds their awareness. Yeah.
And that you actually can break through to people.
Awakens their awareness. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's what my company is called. Is actually Awakening.
Amazing,
And
yeah.
because I think everyone is a body of water. Every time they speak, there's water that's being released, right?
Sometimes you get some on your face.
Yeah,
Especially when you're around actors, they tend to spit a lot.
yeah, exactly. Those passionate actors, you got to watch out for that passion.
Enunciation.
But
it's
yeah,
great.
everyone's awakening. Everyone's awakening to what water really is, and I think like Dr. Emoto said, we have to learn to not just treat the water, but respect the water. And I think that's what has to happen at these water treatment places. Like there's like, as funny as it sounds, we know the law of attraction now more than ever today, of how water embodies its surroundings and is so receptive to its environment. So why not have just positive words and positive images all around these water treatment plants? Because this is where our water goes to get treated. Let's actually treat it with some kindness instead of just putting chemicals in it to kill whatever's living in it.
Yeah,
let's.
and it's not just the water too, because I've had the same thought about food, fast food restaurants or any restaurant, and we know this already, right? The mother that cooks for her family with love, like
Yeah.
she's putting the love into the food, right?
Secret
'Cause
ingredient,
food
yeah, the
is
best
filled
ingredient
with
there is.
all food has water in it.
I guess
anyways,
the dad just barbecues.
right? So, but it's so true. But if we're getting our food from fast food places where the food's made by angry teenagers,
It goes into the food, yeah.
right?
And think about all the
first generation
pain-
immigrants who are being totally abused
Yeah.
by their employers.
Or these meat factories, right?
Yeah.
Where all these
Yeah.
things they have so much suffering, so much fear, and they're
Right.
mechanically led into the slaughterhouse. Like
Yeah.
you're embodying all that chemical that's releasing all that fear. You're eating that.
And that is actually one of the rationales, I think, for having kosher and halal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the meat or is blessed, right?
Yeah.
That is
Exactly.
actually has a real effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you look at both extremes, I mean, look how they do it in India. They glorify the cow almost in a godly, with godly mantras and everything, and then they kill it. Right after it's at the highest point of praise, then they kill the cow. And what we do here in the Western culture is the exact opposite. We don't bless that cow. We do everything but that.
So, okay, so now, like, now what do you think, where can we go as a culture with this knowledge? I mean, we're talking about this, but it's still
Yeah.
even new. I mean, Jen,
The
didn't really
pH
hear about
levels,
it until
actually, you know, how you showed me, you have that pH filter that you have.
Right.
I think that's the next step, is building these pH level devices at water treatment plants. I think that's the next step, is to make sure that we have alkaline water flowing through our blood. You know, because the more we raise the quality of water, the more we raise the quality of life all around the world. The whole world will evolve at a rapid rate if we just take care of the water.
I've got. I mean, when I think about water, I think about Flint, Michigan, and the terrible poisoning by lead
Yeah.
that's been going on and is still going on with very little help from the local authorities.
Yeah.
Although the local people are pulling together in a crazy way, and I think about us selling a lot of our water rights to the states. I think about rivers being diverted, but I don't know if you've heard about. I know that Stephen Lewis, the former UN, who has the Stephen Lewis Foundation, former ambassador to the UN on AIDS. He, I think he was saying that he has a plan that for something like a ridiculous small sum on a world scale, for like $4 or $5 billion, everybody in the world could have a reliable, safe source of water provided to them. But there's absolutely no political will to fulfill this. Now, how high on the list of priorities would you put something like that? Like, is there a plan in your mind?
I think it's the main
or-
priority. I mean, like, look how much, you know, trillions of dollars we're spending on war when we should be spending that on taking care of the water. Because water is the one thing that creates relativity for us all. It's everything. Like, water is the main thing that we all have in common, you know?
Yeah.
You know, look at the Jungle Book, that thing, that truce where everyone comes to the water, right? Everyone
Right.
just is at peace because they're all uniting at that water hole. And we have to think about that in a global perspective, I think, because we all take part in the wellness of water. You know, literally, mentally, physically, there's one well that's there, you know? And that's the wellness that nourishes us all. And I mean, some people have better filters than others, but we have to empower the frequency of the water at a global scale, I think.
I think you do have a lot of poet in you, because a lot of your words have two meanings, and I kind of love it. It's like that you're talking about the water treatment and treatment of water and wellness and wellness.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a poet. I know it. Sometimes I feel the ebb and flow of it.
Well, it's interesting because I think that in previous centuries, salt has been one of the things that drew us together.
Yeah.
Because salt's probably the most essential.
That's a great point,
It is
actually. Himalayan
essential
sea salt is the best salt to
Well, but
bring the pH level up in
right,
water.
but just in terms of actually, like, our bodies can't retain water without having salt. If you don't have salt, then I mean it's the cure for sorry, what's the there's an illness. What's the thinking of?
What?
There's a very common disease in the world that nobody in North America gets, because we just give people some salt and it's cured.
Oh, really? Wow. So people are just lacking salt.
Yeah, in a lot of ways,
Berry.
because they can't retain water, so
Right.
the disease causes them to throw up and to
Right.
emit liquids, and just a little bit of salt is enough to. But people die because of this.
Wow.
What if they drank salt water? I probably get it.
I think a small amount of salt water is okay, but too much salt water, and not only do you throw it up, but it doesn't do anything for you, because the water
That leads to a great
pulls
story.
the water out
actually,
of your cells instead of.
It leads to a great story about water. There was this crew that was actually lost out at sea for a few weeks
I
at
think
time.
I know this
You-
story,
you've
but
seen
is
this,
it
yeah.
a true? Is this a true story?
I've heard it's
okay,
I've heard it's a true
could
story.
you please
Yeah.
tell it, because it's such a great story.
Well, because
Cool.
they ran out of water. They were lost at sea, and so they all began praying, you know, to the water, like you know, just and visualizing that there was fresh water all around them. You know, so the whole crew gets together and they're they have no choice but to, you know, hope that this is going to nourish them. And they said when they drank the water, it actually tasted just like
It was sweet.
pure, you know, lake water, like pure water. They couldn't taste the salt in it at all. And not only did they live, but it was you know, huge transformational experience for them. You know, like water really does absorb the intentions and the prayers that you give it, as Dr. Emoto showed. And you know, sometimes it's our last resort. And I hope, you know, Earth doesn't wait for this last resort to come. Hopefully we realize that we need to raise the vibration and clean and energize and empower the water sooner than later. But that story is, you know, just is what's really going on around the world right now.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I want to, that reminds me of, I really think that there's a real opportunity here to, for example, if we were able, there was just an article, somehow the Israelis have figured out how to lower the cost of desalination significantly.
I heard about this
Right?
too, yeah.
Now, if we can keep lowering that cost of desalination, I mean, we could turn the Sahara Desert into, it's bigger than Canada, turn it into a garden
And it used to
Yep.
be one too.
where, and billions of people could live there in a beautiful,
Yeah.
Edenic environment, right? All we
Absolutely.
got to do is figure out how to just lower the cost of desalination.
You know what's going to happen though? What we're going to end up with is a lot more American golf courses and deserts.
Nothing wrong with
Better than
Nothing-
desert, I guess, right?
I've got to say, it always is a kind of a disconnect where, you know, people around the world don't have enough water, and you go to Arizona or, you know, to other places where they've greened the desert, but only for the purpose of entertainment.
Yeah, no, it's funny, but I think that is what we're working towards now, is that symbiotic relationship with technology and life. I mean, we've used, you know, ever since the Industrial Revolution, we've been taking advantage of nature. You know,
Yeah.
we've been slaughtering the resources and cutting down trees
Right.
like crazy. But
And
now
definitely for the benefit of the few,
next,
not for-
yeah. But now we are coming out with solar panels, with wind power, with water turbines. And you know, now they do have the technology to actually put this kind of gel in the desert. I've been reading about the other day, and where it absorbs more water, and the water stays in the ground longer. So they're able to convert desert into landmass. And now they have technology where these seed bombs from planes too, right? So after we lay the ground with this, you know, this compound that absorbs the water and keeps it underground longer, we send these planes with all these seed bombs, literally, and create forests with these planes.
Oh, it's
And
fantastic.
somehow, once the vegetation gets started, it changes the
creates the
climate
shade.
so
Right.
that it starts to rain and
Well,
stuff
that's
like
what
that.
you're
Builds an
talking about it.
ecosystem.
And
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
when people talk about the
Like
the
terraforming.
devastation of the Amazon rainforest, right?
Amazon, yeah.
There's so much momentum there, economic momentum. It's hard to turn that situation around. But we could easily get momentum flowing to green the Sahara, right? Which
yeah.
would make up for that loss.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, if we can't beat them, we can create another rainforest that lives
Yeah.
somewhere else. You know.
Now,
But,
but okay, so this is really a new thing. So we are able to see the power of our minds and our intention when it comes to water, right? What about the Pacific, though? What about like the
That's a big
the
problem.
radiation? Like, I mean, when I hear that story about those sailors who were able to, through prayer, create fresh water.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do the same with the radiation, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I heard the best thing for that is actually, I heard hemp is actually the greatest absorber of radiation, one of the biggest ones, and it grows the fastest, right, out of any other radiation absorber. So one idea is to just plant hemp all around any place that's radiated. Just fill it up with hemp, and nature will take care of that. Nature already has the technology to take care of us, right? It's just finding the right medicine, the right plant for the right job. I mean, all of our technology just comes from what nature has already mastered already, right? I mean, you look at the airplane came from a bird, you know, the helicopter from, you know, a dragonfly, you know, everything that we've created. I mean, even that first fire was just, you know, from the sun, looking at the sun, right? Then we created wheels that mimic the sun and the moon. And so everything that we create, nature has already mastered it. It's just, you know, we create it at a new dimensional level so that we can expand the universe even farther and expand infinite intelligence even more so. And I think, at this age, it's all about reconnecting to our roots, developing those symbiotic relationships where our technology can work in harmony with what nature has already mastered.
That's neat, because then even if there has been knowledge that's been lost over the centuries, we know we can reclaim it by just looking back to the
plants,
source.
yeah, as long as we don't extinct too many species, of course.
Yeah, and that's neat, because that all comes in line with chaos theory. And,
yeah.
And the way you were talking about with the structure of water as well.
I was just going to say too, there was like another interesting thing about the look at Japan. Like they've had radiation issues more than anybody, right? From the Hiroshima, the bombs to the Fukushima.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that I heard is that miso soup actually helps with radiation problems.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's a miso is basically like it's a soy that's been
something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Like it's very salty.
Something like that. But anyways, but apparently they found that the people who were eating miso and only nobody in North America was eating miso like 50 years ago, but and so they already had something in their culture that was already there to help people, and that we can now all learn from.
So it was prophylactic before they actually had radiation issues in it. That's interesting.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. Nature. It teaches us so much, but we've created the technology now where we just access the internet instead of going out into the forest where, where the Matrix originated.
Yeah.
But I'm going on a medicine walk just a couple of weeks from now, and I think that's one of the best things people can do is just learn more about the herbs that are in your forest. The natives actually told me that what you really need is actually just growing right outside your door. So whatever you actually need, the plants will actually be growing right outside your door because you're giving that message, right? And plants are the most receptive things in the universe. They're like giant antennas. Right? They pick up on everything.
Almost all water, right?
Yeah, and they're like all water. Yeah, exactly. It's the same design over and over again, right? Even if you look at the veins in our arms, the rivers on the earth, the lightning in the sky, everything is just a branching out. It's the ether. It's the tree of life that's constantly branching out.
What's neat what you say about plants too, because if you've ever been stung by nettles, the sting of nettles can be taken away by the dock leaves.
Oh, okay,
They usually grow very close to the nettles, so usually the thing you need to take the sting.
Long story, but anyways, I read that once I was camping all alone, and I got poison ivy, right? I had 2 books. I had a bunch of books. One was about eastern forests. I
like that you went camping with books.
To talk about...
You took the dead trees back to their live cousins, right?
Yeah. No. Actually, I was just going to use them as fuel. Right?
But we need the heat,
We're not going to burn those books.
But they had, so I got poison ivy. I had one book that was all about the eastern forests and all the different plants in the eastern forests. And I had another book that was like a herbal remedy book, right? Oh. And what I read was, they said within 10 feet of any poisonous plant is the remedy plant.
Right.
Right?
Wow.
And then they named some of the remedy plants. So then I looked into my eastern forest book, and I looked for these plants, and sure enough, there they were.
You lived the experience. You didn't just read about it.
And I was able to treat my poison ivy with just the plants that were just...
That's awesome.
Absolutely amazing, Cool.
Did you go into the forest with the anticipation that you would actually be able to find food to eat, like plants to eat and things, or...? I'm just curious.
No, I was on a fast, actually.
Oh, okay.
So,
so you were just using the plants you found topically then.
Those ones, yeah.
And that's one of the most fascinating things, though, is like that's half the healing experience is just going out into the nature, and whether it is planting something or getting your hands dirty, but really connecting with the earth. That ritual is what really heals you twice as fast, right? Than just putting something in your bloodstream, but really getting your whole body immersed into the Earthlink experience.
Well,
that's
we usually
really
are.
Healing.
We're fairly isolated from nature at this point in creation. I mean,
well, I grew up in the forest, so I still
Okay, were you
literally,
raised
yeah.
by bears? Is that what you write about bears? Because
Actually,
that's
actually,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
There's bears all around my place. Actually, yeah, black bears, yeah, everywhere. And then my daughter's name's Kara. Yeah, her nickname is Kara Bera, actually. But yeah, this Bear World is. I wrote this for her.
Yeah.
It's all about multicultural unity. So Bear World, for every book sold, there's an oak tree planted.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's just like Toronto has somebody from everyone all around the world
Yeah.
living in the same city. In Bear World, there's all different bears living in the same forest, and so each one has a lesson for Gary Grizzly. So he sees the bigger picture that Earth is the one home that we all share taking care of. So one of the bears talks to him about how every plant is connected to the same root, which is Earth. Another bear talks to him, Polar Pete, about the water, how everybody's a body of water. What goes around comes back around. So, he sees the bigger picture eventually that, Earth is his home and that everyone has a responsibility taking care of that one home that's there. And so at the end, not only do they clean up the entire forest, but they take all the different fruit seeds from all around the forest, and then the bears bear fruit at the end. They make the forest a much more richer place with
Wow.
way more fruit trees.
That's a great story.
Yeah, a little bit of entrepreneurship, a little bit of multicultural unity, a little bit about saving the environment. a
And
little
so
bit of
Bear
everything.
World, you can get that on Amazon as well. And
Yeah, Indigo and Coles has Bear World. I'll be doing book signings all over Toronto, actually. Indigo and Coles with Bear World. And yeah, Amazon as well, of course.
That's great, Corey. So this has been an awesome conversation. I mean, I know we could talk all day and get into all kinds
Absolutely,
of
yeah.
great
We could keep
subjects.
the river flowing for a very long time.
And we'd love to have you back anytime you want to come back. But is there any final thought or
Yeah,
something maybe
yeah,
we didn't
yeah. Oh,
speak about
so
that
many
you want to leave
final
people
thoughts.
with? And then we'll give you your website out and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think where humanity is going is really diving deep into the meaning of what water is, because when we find what water is,
Yeah.
we find out who we really are as well, right? Water is the most giving thing. It's so receptive to all the stars in the cosmos, what's going on. Oh, it's so open to what's going on around it constantly. And it gives to everything it touches. And that's why it inherits the entire world, because it gives back to all life. And so I think what it's going to show us is that we really are human, meaning light beings. Hue, meaning different tones, different emotions, just as water is going through that journey, right? That ebb and flow from the stars of love and gratitude to the pipes of not so much. And so once we realize that human, meaning light being, that, our bones are made out of carbon, the same things that make crystal, and our water, the blood in our veins is made out of water, right? Which is liquid crystal, the two things that make rainbows, right? That's what we're made out of.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally light beings. And when we open up to that, when we really see the potential of water, we'll see the potential inside of us, and we'll start to shine. And I think that's humanity's destiny. So I keep being hopeful and optimistic about that.
Well, maybe one step people could take towards all that is to get your book, right? The Water Bear,
The water bear, yeah.
which is, and what's your website, or where can they go for that?
You can go to awakening.org.wordpress. So it's awakening on WordPress. So awakening.org.wordpress.com.
Is that with a C or K? Awakening.
Awakening. So awaken and then INK.
Okay.
So awaken ink as in ink. Everyone's just like a
Right.
a pen in the hands of God. Everyone's awakening to that.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
I'm going to
Corey.
advocate for us to replace that drilling down expression that's going around with diving deep.
Yes. Much
Nice.
more smooth.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Corey. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Grateful to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Come back with Ron Dalton from Innocence Canada to talk about the problem of people getting wrongfully convicted and what we can all do about it. So we'll be right back. Liquid Understanding.